You ever wake up and just feel done? Not tired in the I need more sleep kind of way, but exhausted down to your core, like every movement takes twice the energy it should? You sit there, staring at your to-do list, knowing exactly what needs to be done, but your body and mind just won't cooperate, and then the guilt starts creeping in. Why am I like this? Am I just lazy? Why can't I push myself like I used to? But here's what most people don't realize. Burnout doesn't hit like a switch. It doesn't suddenly appear overnight. It creeps in slowly, disguising itself as exhaustion, procrastination, and self-doubt, until one day you wake up and realize you don't recognize yourself anymore. It starts with little things you don't even notice at first. You feel a bit drained, a bit overwhelmed, but you brush it off. Just a bad week, you tell yourself. I'll bounce back. But weeks turn into months, and instead of bouncing back, you feel like you're sinking further into something you can't quite explain. And as of 2010, a survey reported that approximately 75% of adults in the United States alone have experienced symptoms of burnout, with over 40% of cases being more severe. But before we dive in, let me ask you something. What's one thing you used to enjoy but now feel completely drained by? Maybe it's work, a hobby, even simple things like hanging out with friends. Drop your answer in the comments because trust me, you're not alone in this. Let's talk about it. The first thing you notice is the disconnection. You don't feel things the same way anymore. You're going through the motions, checking off tasks, showing up where you need to be, but it all feels distant, like you're watching your own life from the outside. The things that used to matter, they don't hit the same way. You used to get excited about projects, about plans, about your future. Now it all just feels dull. You're there, but not really there. Conversations feel empty. Accomplishments don't bring that same sense of pride. The things that once made you happy just feel like another thing to get through. It's not that you don't care. It's that you can't seem to connect to anything the way you used to. And then there's the loss of motivation. This is where the self-doubt really starts to take over. Burnout doesn't happen to people who never cared. It happens to people who used to care a lot. People who were once ambitious, driven, constantly pushing themselves to do more. But now that drive is just gone. And it doesn't make sense. You want to be productive. You want to keep up. But every task feels like pushing a boulder uphill. And no matter how much you try to will yourself into action, it feels like you're running on fumes. And because burnout affects people who were once high achieving, it makes them question everything about themselves. Am I just not trying hard enough? Have I lost my edge? But that's the thing. Burnout isn't about effort. It's what happens when effort is pushed past its limits for too long. And it's not just about motivation for work or responsibilities. Even the things you once loved start to feel meaningless. That hobby you used to be passionate about feels like a chore now. The activities that once energized you now feel draining. You used to find joy in music, in art, in fitness, in writing. But now, you can't even bring yourself to start. You keep telling yourself you'll get back to it when you feel better, but that feeling never comes, so you stop. And when you stop, you feel even worse because you remember what it was like to love those things, and you don't understand why you can't feel that way anymore. Then comes the mood shifts. Burnout doesn't just make you tired, it changes who you are. You become irritable, short-tempered, snapping at little things that never used to bother you. You used to be patient, understanding, maybe even the person others leaned on. But now, you don't have the energy for it. Conversations feel like too much work. Social interactions feel exhausting instead of fulfilling. You catch yourself pulling away from people, not because you don't care, but because even responding to a text feels like an effort you just don't have in you. And when burnout gets deeper, self-care starts slipping. At first, it's little things. Maybe you skip a workout, maybe you start ordering takeout instead of cooking, but then one skipped habit turns into another, and suddenly, even basic self-care feels like an overwhelming task. Showering feels like too much effort. Your space starts getting messier. You tell yourself you'll clean, you'll organize, you'll get back to normal tomorrow. But tomorrow comes, and you still feel the same. So you push it to the next day and the next, until one day, you realize you don't even recognize the person you've become. And the scariest part? Burnout doesn't hit you all at once. It builds over time. It starts with small stress, things you brush off. Then one day, that stress turns into exhaustion. Then that exhaustion turns into complete emotional and mental depletion. By the time you realize something is wrong, you've been running on empty for so long that even rest doesn't feel like enough. You take breaks, you sleep more, you do all the things that should help, but the exhaustion lingers because burnout isn't fixed by a single good night's sleep. It's your body and mind telling you that you've pushed too hard for too long, and they need more than a weekend off to recover. And here's the part that people don't talk about enough. Burnout is not weakness. It's not failure. It's not proof that you're not good enough. It's your mind and body screaming for help after being ignored for too long. If any of this sounds familiar, you're not alone, and you're not lazy. You're just exhausted in a way that can't be solved by trying harder. The first step to fixing burnout isn't pushing through, it's recognizing it. It's giving yourself permission to step back, to slow down, to actually listen to what your body has been trying to tell you. Because if you don't, burnout doesn't just go away, it deepens. And the longer you ignore it, the harder it is to pull yourself back. So if this resonated with you, if you've been feeling drained, disconnected, and not like yourself, don't gaslight yourself into thinking you're just lazy. Pay attention to what's happening inside you, because burnout isn't a sign that you're weak. It's a sign that you've been strong for too long without a break. And now it's time to heal. Burnout isn't something you can just push through. It's a signal that you need to slow down before you lose yourself completely. If any of this resonated with you, take a step back, acknowledge what you're feeling, and give yourself the same patience and care that you'd offer a friend in your position. Because the truth is, you're not lazy. You're just exhausted in a way that can't be fixed by sheer willpower alone. And speaking of things that shape our emotional and mental well-being, have you ever wondered how the words spoken to us in childhood continue to impact us as adults? If so, you need to check out our video on 8 toxic things parents say to their children. It'll open your eyes to the way language can shape our self-esteem, our emotions, and even our relationships. Click on it now to dive deeper into the psychology behind childhood experiences and their lasting effects. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Psych Bites for more insights into human behavior, mental health, and the way our minds work. Let's learn, grow, and heal together. See you in the next one.